like it's real. Like it's real, dude. Like it's real. Do we live through life when you don't even experience it? Do you feel like a ghost in your life? Just floating around inside your life, your world. People sometimes feel like removed. I've had people tell me this. I feel like I'm experiencing something, but it's not, I don't feel like it's really me that's experiencing it. So I thought that what could be at the root of that illness? It's a very, very deep sickness. I think actually this might be the source of where people can do some such horrible things. They just detach from reality. So what causes people to do that? What causes that sickness? Good morning. What causes such a sickness to feel removed from your reality? I think that what's missing is a very simple thing. But it's fundamental, and people don't realize this because they're just trapped in their exile mindset. All you have to do to not feel the complete removal from reality, which is a deep-seated loneliness, to not even experience your own life as something that's happening now, I think that's rooted in the absence of God present in your thought at the time. That's it. So in other words, the flip side of that, because always from an illness, there has to be, if there's an illness, there's got to be something like that's the opposite. Like, okay, there's not just a neutral healthy state. There's a healthy state whereby just ecstasy emerges. There's the opposite of illness. Always has to be. Why? Because God's always better than he is severe. He's nicer. He's a good friend. He's a good friend more than he is a disciplining father. Red apple cheeks. The singe of sparklers. It's inevitable if you're a child and you're gonna have a birthday cake or something like that and have those red apple cheeks, okay? Because some kids are really cute. Kinar Yisrael ve'yu. And their faces light up when you bring out their birthday cake with the sparklers in it. It's inevitable that someone's gonna take that sparkler, wave it around, have some fun, and burn himself for a friend. The singe of sparklers is you could be really experiencing a great time and say, hey, there's a great time happening here, but I feel removed from that. And then the singe of the sparkler reminds you it's you. Why do we wait for the singe of the sparkler? Why can't it just be the sparkler? So that's actually the correction for this illness that God institutes. He gives us the singe of the sparkler. A healthy person feels pain in his body if there's a need to react to something. You have to develop sensitivity. This is like a muscle for that. Remember, we get everything. Our ability to appreciate the very essence of God, God himself, through specifically our physical experiences and specifically those that resonate within us. I brought you sources. I keep going over them and know them off by heart. Make this your fingerprint, okay? Not the kind that you want to erase so that nobody can detect you. This is your fingerprint for meaning in your life, in every single detail, specifically in those things that mean everything to you. Finding God in that. I want to speak about, I want to say that poem again, but I don't know, you guys don't like poetry. So, I learned an incredible mimer. I learned some other things that I want to share with you also, and I have all my books laid out on my seat here beside me. So let me just summarize. Like it's real. Like it's Mark Rivkin. I'm looking forward to meeting you again. Like it's real. How do you experience the moment and really make a meaningful moment? The red apple cheeks, the singe of sparklers. You don't need the singe of sparklers to remind you that, yes, I have a real relationship with a real history and a real place in this world, and every single moment that I contribute to this world is precious, and that is my gift to God. And so how, if you have that anxiety of not feeling in touch with your experiences, I'm suggesting here, just bring God into that. Say, you know what? I have a bestie, and that's God. And he's the one that's creating everything in front of me right now. That is the only thing I don't do. I have a partnership with God, but he has that power, at least as the soul is in it, Atzilus and below. But above that, probably you're right. Every other rabbi that said differently. Yes. There is ultimate unity, okay? I've been looking for the reason why the luchais, there's two luchais. It bothered me because I use that as a symbol of unity. In fact, the Alter Rebbe does himself in Parshas Chukas in Dvar Torah. It speaks about the letters engraved in the fine stone, the sapphire, gems, went right through, and therefore they weren't ink on parchment, two separate things. They unify completely. So it's a symbol of unity. Why is it two? That drove me crazy. But I think if you understand what Yom Kippur is all about, how could you have a day of at-one-ment, of atonement? How do you come really one? When you reach a level, good morning, when you reach a level, when you're above the two luchais, you have a contract that binds you to each other. That's the Torah. 5 and 5, the fingers of the hand, the two hands. Okay, you have the aspect of two. You have it's a level of pursuit. Good morning. It's the Shir HaShirim, where they're just in pursuit of each other. They can't make it happen, okay? Their parents won't let. But they're just in pursuit of each other. That's the luchais, okay? It's this pursuit. There's a level that's beyond that when you actually achieve oneness with that person you're pursuing, in this case, God, and that's above the covenant itself. That's, oh my goodness, that's why they had to, I couldn't understand why the Shir HaShirim have to be, as Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson explained in the Gesher, specifically children who were too young to get married. Their parents wouldn't let them. Why does it specifically have to be that? I had some ideas before about transgression. I don't think that's it. I think the idea, it's also the basula, right? Someone who's beyond the trap of the intellect is a basula. So you have actually two levels there, right? You have the level of so that's what I think. The whole idea of this transgression is just to instill the yearning. It's the Elio, Mavasara Geula, the nadim, the view that we were supposed to cry for in Yom Kippur. You know, if you do that when, as they read Achremais, Shnei Bnei Aaron, his two children died. If you weep during that, you'll never see the loss, chas v'shalom, of your children in your lifetime. It's you're supposed to mourn their yearning for God so much that they just lost their life. You're supposed to yearn for that. True, it might cost you your life, okay, but there's a yearning associated with that. That's Eliyahu and Navi, right? He got the soul of Nadav and Avihu. He's bringing that into the world with a very refined body, as explains in Chassidus. So, the reason why there's two luchais, I think, is to tell you that there's a level beyond the luchais. There's a level of this when you're not a connection that's beyond the marriage contract, in a sense. Before they had a marriage contract, in the sense of Shir HaShirim. Because there's a level above the Torah itself, and that's what you tap into in Yom Kippur. That's why you could be in a day of at-one-ment and achieve atonement, because you went against chas v'shalom against the Torah. So how do you fix that? You have a relationship that's even beyond that. Maybe that's the transgression I'm saying that's associated with the Shir HaShirim, why it has to be a Romeo and Juliet situation. They couldn't get married in that. They weren't allowed to. That's what he said. I got to look it up more. I know. But if they do, I gotta learn Shir HaShirim like inside out to understand this. But if they do actually unite, I think it does. It says my right hand is beneath your head and my left hand embraces you. Or no, I push you away with small deicha yamin mekareves. But also another verses say your right hand beneath my head, and your left hand embraces me. We have to be an expert in that. So if sounds like a relationship that is beyond the Torah. So if you have two luchais, why is there two? Is there unity that's higher than that? I'm suggesting that that's Yom Kippur, the one day, the day at one with it describes it, and like in every single area of Yom Kippur, it talks about Achas B'Shana, I think we say, the one day of the year. And it's Par Echad, it's one ox, I don't know, cow. Par, a cow. Talks about the ox here. That the reason why we are sustained with the physical things. How could it be we're higher than the physical things? Well, how could it be that we get sustained from that? It says I couldn't rule Torah judgment until I had eaten Dvar Torah. I hadn't had breakfast of steak tartare or whatever fancy people eat for breakfast. He didn't eat steak for breakfast, so therefore he couldn't rule in Torah. The Talmudic sage. So you get the idea there that the lower realm is giving life to someone that's higher. He's a judge even, okay? It's not just a commoner. But it says here even the commoner has a soul that comes from Atik Yemin, the highest level. So it comes down into the lower dimension. And that's where, but the idea is, I know this is getting a bit off topic, but we're relating to Hashem on the one day of the year from the one aspect, the singularity of the soul, the Yechida Shebenefesh, Yechida Liyachadach, my singularity to yours. It's all oneness. There's that unity that's achieved on Yom Kippur that's higher than the two luchais in the Kodesh HaKodashim, in a sense. And that's how you actually achieve atonement, because you're going higher. Lifnei Hashem titaru. Before Hashem, above God's name, Yud Kei Vav Kei, you're going to get purity from there. So at that level, everything's equal. Chachma and Malchus achieve equanimity, total on the same level. Why? Because infinity compared to like the top of the Eiffel Tower to the bottom, infinity to that, they're both actually equal. I know you can't imagine that. It's impossible for you to imagine, but that's the mathematical reality. Anything divided by infinity is like zero, I think, right? So it says, the Torah comes out of Chochmah. So if you have Torah that binds you to God with a marriage contract, and you have to do certain things, right? That's what the Torah is. That's what keeping Torah is, a devotion to God. But Torah comes from Chochmah. And when you talk about the highest possible level, which we connect with on Yom Kippur, the Torah is actually the Hishva Achas, good and bad. God sets the rules. It's a very impossible to understand that. And that's why you could seek atonement. That's why you could achieve atonement on Yom Kippur. Because you're becoming unified with God at that level where He's beyond good and bad, beyond good and evil, right? Okay, it gets technical. I don't know how much you want to get into the mystical aspect of this. Okay, well, maybe we'll suffice with this. But the reason why that you can get, so on Shabbos, you get pleasure from the physical things. Because the source of these physical things is actually from the highest level, just fell down. That's trapped in the physical world. This holiness is trapped in the physical things that you relate to. Your job is to interact with those things and do it with God there, with you. That's the singe of the sparklers. The kel nekamas Hashem, kel nekamas Sefia. We say every Wednesday, we say that verse in Tehillim. God of vengeance, Hashem is God. Kel nekamas Sefia. God of vengeance appears before me. That is, Chassidus explains that is his nakama, his vengeance, is just being there. The king appears. And if you welcome him in, think about what that means. So Kel Nakama is the vengeance of Hashem. It's just, I'm there. So welcome him in. This is my experience with you. Why? Because the Torah says that I can do this. I can eat this steak tartare, since that's the theme of the day. I can eat it. It's permissible. It's kosher. And you know what? You put your essence in that physicality of the world. So I'm just bringing you into that experience. And that's what's achieved on Shabbos automatically. You're just enjoying it, and automatically that's a godly thing. And during the week, you have to actually contemplate and bring that in. But in either case, you're interacting with the world. So that's called Avedis HaBirurim. You're interacting with the world for a good, holy purpose. On Yom Kippur, it's higher than Avedis HaBirurim. That's the level of God that says to not eat. That's why we fast on Yom Kippur, because God doesn't eat at this level. Okay, at this place, it says in the Zohar, on the verse Basilagani, it's specifically when God comes into his garden. That's the whole Shir HaShirim, this whole story about this transgressive love of these people too young to marry. That's above the Torah in a sense. Achalti ari, it's specifically in the garden where that's where God eats with his beloved, the deity. In his place, when he's in his regular place, lav urche lemeichal, it's not his way to eat. I found the Zohar, it was very hard for me to find actually, because the words are slightly different. So it was hard for me to find, but I found it. It might be in a separate video, because I'm gonna have to fiddle around with my iPad if it's not in the right place. It probably is actually. So on Shabbos, you're interacting with the world and elevating it. On Yom Kippur, you're beyond that. There's no food at that level. There's no eating. You're just okay, I already had my fine wine and my 5-star restaurant dinner. Now I'm having a unity that we don't eat now. It's just a pasnish. And that's specifically in God's place, the Kadsha Kadashim, the Kruvim. The word Ya'ari, I ate my Ya'ari. It's, you know what, I have to get these words. I'm gonna hope that it's open right on my iPad, because I have this translation for this, and it's beautiful. Here it is. I have come to my garden, my own, my bride. I have plucked my mirth and spice, eaten my honey and honeycomb, drunk my wine and my milk. Eat, lovers, and drink deep of love. There are people who think that romantic love is not in Torah. Have you ever heard more romantic words in your life? I haven't. I don't even know what mirth is, but it sounds romantic. I plucked my mirth and spice, eat my honey with honeycomb. What is that? You can't control yourself. You're eating the honeycomb as well as the honey? That's what the Mefarshim speak about this. I'm like, I'm going crazy. I'm eating the cup with the wine. I'm the, what's he called? The Transylvania devil. Isn't that his name or no? Yeah, something like that. Eat, lovers, and drink deep of love. Okay, we got to get to the Mefarshim on this. I have them, right? Just want to make sure that we finish the previous thing. I think we did. Shabbos, saying it's higher than Shabbos. Yom Kippur is even higher than Shabbos. You don't even eat. Okay, there's a level of unity where you're not eating anymore. We're just enjoying each other. But there's something to be said of eating also, which, what is that about? Why are we talking about this romantic eating of lovers eating together? Okay, the chassan and kala in the yichud room, when they're getting married, that's what they do. They eat. They're fasted all day. Like we did on Yom Kippur. Then you eat. Like it's a mitzvah. It's like Ksas Yom Tov, it says, about today. It's a Yom Tov, good Yom Tov, everyone. So you're supposed to have a big Suda last night, celebrating. Bring God into that, so that don't fret like a monster. All of a sudden you could eat. Ah! Don't be crazy. There's God in the world. Okay, I have an amazing mimer that compares Yom Kippur to Purim in the sense that we don't eat. Okay, on Purim we don't eat? Yes, we don't eat, we drink. It's like Eilam Haba, Ein Bayachila, it says. Okay, God doesn't eat in his place. It quotes this. That's why I found this mimer. It has to do Purim. You go above Tamvadas, so too on Yom Kippur. You went above the Tamvadas. The reason, the rationale, the motivation of having devotion to God in what you do throughout the year and serving God, doing Torah mitzvahs. Right? You reach a level in Yom Kippur that's higher than that. That's what makes the purity of a relationship that says, I'm just erasing the slate and giving you a blank slate. Now, from now on, whatever you do I'm going to just look on fondly again. I'm not going to suspect you. I'm not going to be judgmental about you. I'm just going to bring this holiness, of this oneness, of this unity that was actually transgressive in a sense. That's the atonement. You achieve through that transgressive, well, above the Torah, to bring that through the Torah throughout the year. So Yom Kippur is Achas B'Shana. It's a one-time opportunity to have that above. I'm above now. Now it's all not transgressive, specifically, with a ksuva in the whole proper way. It's not this forbidden love, the Romeo and Juliet of Shir HaShirim that I find fascinating. I didn't realize that before until just recently. Okay. Rashi says, Basagane, I came to my garden, B'mei Chanukah Sabayis. That's when we inaugurated the Beis HaMikdash. That's when God comes into his garden. And what does he do there? He eats. He eats the karbanos. Okay, maybe I'm losing my audience and it's getting a bit late. Shasisi I drank my wine. Hein hanesachim. That is the wine libation on the Mizbeach. Imechalavi, and I drank the wine with milk. Masku v'tzachu mecholov. It was sweetened v'tzachu and permeated mecholov. I think it's supposed to say chelov, no? Why milk? Maybe it's a reference to the chelov on the Masku v'tzachu mecholov. I think it's people celebrate. I don't really know what it's talking about there. I think it has the English somewhere. Okay, I'm not gonna look for it now. It says, "Ichlu reim, eat lovers ba'ayom in the sanctuary, the Beis HaMikdash, Aaron Abanov. That's the Kohanim. Uveis Eilam Yokayim Kohanim Kulam. And when we're talking about the Holy Temple, all of the Kohanim, not just Aaron and his children. Shuv the Shichru Daidim, Rashi and Shir HaShirim says, Eli Yisrael Eichel B'sar Zevach HaShlomim. This is the Jewish people who eat the meat of the sacrifices, She'ekrivu LaChanukas HaMizbeach, that they used to inaugurate the Holy Temple. So God's eating at this with us when we inaugurated the Beis HaMikdash. Okay, I got a Zayar in here. Okay, this is a short one, and I think I got some longer ones, so maybe we'll do a short one at least. I came to my garden. This is the Zayar. I came to the supernal Gan Eden. My sister, my bride. That's the Jewish people. On that day, I guess it's talking about the inauguration of the Beis HaMikdash. There was a union of this couple, b'chela and everything. Is davgu zivugim b'hau Gan Eden. They had this coupling in Gan Eden. Begin the isparchu kulu meshakyu denachla. In order that all the, I think it says rivers will be blessed. Biskashu kol chad mechavre, and they connect each one with the other. Hadahu teksiv arisi mayrim b'sami v'chalti yari, and it quotes the line from Shir HaShirim. Okay, that's very poetic. Okay, who knows what that's talking about? What's everyone saying today? Okay, so those are my sources. Okay, so there's some more Zaras here, but they're long. Let's see if I can jump into one. Let's see where it quotes the Shir HaShirim. Here it is. Reach apecha katapuchim. I'm not going to try and do justice to that. Oh, here in the beginning of it, it says, "Achal tiyarim divshi." That's the verse in Shir HaShirim that we're talking about. Afagav delav archa detach. Oh, this is the one that's quoted here. That God doesn't eat at this level. It's not at a higher level than when he's in his garden. He doesn't eat. So what does it mean? Afagav delav archa bekach. Even though it's God doesn't eat. Begin rechimu dechalo. In order, but for love of his kala, I think it's saying. All this happens in the house of the kala, but not in any other place. In his place, he doesn't eat, he doesn't drink. But in her chamber, he eats and drinks. That's why it says, I've come to my garden. The angels that God sent Avram, they didn't eat there. But for the sake of Avram, they did eat. No, in their place they don't eat, but for the sake of Avram they eat. Amarle, Rabbi, Chayach Omilo, Da Ba'ikud Shabrichu Lemeimar, begin the Machsek Tivu Lagarme, Kame Knesset Yisrael Salik Milo, Lagarmach, Zakah Ant Ba'almo. Okay, it goes on beautiful. You're meritorious in the world. Tzaddik. Okay, it goes on and on and on. Talks about apples again, which resonates with the topic of the day, my red apple cheeks, the singe of sparklers. I think when people eat, they're right. That's one thing that they relate to. They're not aloof when they're eating. When they're eating a good steak, people feel like, oh, now I'm alive. That's their sparkler moment, when you feel the singe, like you're really there. The positive aspect of that, the fun associated with before, when you're waving your sparkler around, you're really reveling in the steak, in the moment. That's like Shabbos, that's like Yom Tov, when you're enjoying the physicality. It's a Vedas Abururim, the beauty and the pleasure found within the physical, good morning, just by bringing God into that experience. So now when I'm eating, it's not a fress, like the ox of the Baal Shem Tov. He points out the Balabas actually became an ox, because he was even it was a Shabbos meal, and he was eating cholent, he became an ox in a strimal and a surtuk. So even on Shabbos, if you have the wrong mindset, you're really an ox. Sorry to tell you, but you're a holy ox. You're wearing the strimal. You're a Rebisha ox. Forgive me to say that. So eat lovers, the Shir HaShirim, this is being enjoined to eat. Okay, should I look it up again? Achlu, what is it, the words that we're quoting in this mimer? Achal tiyarin. Okay, I can't find the exact words. Okay, whatever. We said it all already like 100 times. There's something else I want to share if we have time, if my agent allows me. I know this is a different topic. Maybe I should save it if it's a different topic. We can have like a separate thing. Okay, it stemmed from, I'll try and do it quick, forgive me. It stemmed from this idea that I'm trying to really figure out. And I'm trying to understand what the Rebbe means by this. And I think I have a hint. It's actually from yesterday's Chitas. Okay, it's the word nikar. When do you recognize something? When you are aware, that's what we're talking about, this mindfulness of the experience of your life. That you're actually living your life. That you could be singed by the world and you know it's you when you're singed, or when you're really into your barbecue. You really know that's when I'm there, right? When I'm in math class, I don't know if I'm really there. So what does it mean? Where does the power... Okay, let's just read this paragraph again. I'm going to read this to you every single day. Bli Nader. I'm not going to, but You should hear this every day. In order for your work in the world, your devotion to God should make a dwelling for the very essence of God, not to just the level of godliness that comes into the world like through your beads that you get from the New Age store. But to the very essence of God, you have a completely intimate and real sparkler relationship with God. But dugmas diros, ha'adam sheba miskal levacholat, like when you're at home eating, you're in your backyard at the barbecue, and you're into that. You have the gravy dripping down your cheeks, okay, your mouth. You're like in heaven. Okay, a real ox in a strimal, right? And that's when you reveal the essence of God, it says here in this context. Okay, like when you're at home, now I could finally, it says here in the Kala's home. Okay, so which home? I mean, who is the home? I always call my wife my home. It says in the Mishnah, right? When you're at home, take off your shirt, okay? Be normal. In your bedroom, take off your shirt. Don't be crazy. In halacha, it says you can't walk around without a tefach exposed. Okay, thank you very much. Are you going to be normal? Are you going to be crazy? Live normal. Be a tzaddik and then worry about it. Be a tzaddik when it comes to, be a nice person. Don't cheat. Be a good person. Then when you've done that, okay, find new ways to be hyper, ultra, or ultra mega orthodox. Find an orthodoxy that resonates with you. If you are that person, be that person. And respect others when they find it difficult to be around. If people are walking around like this, I found sources that speak about that. That the Rebbe says that people that are so affected by things in the world and they do that, I'm judging you for the way you look. People who do that means that they're not really connecting with Ruchnius. That's why the Rebbe has the audacity to send his Bachurim, his very impressionable Bachurim, to the front lines in Manhattan, with the billboards, with everything. With the billboards and all the Zachen. The Rebbe sends them there because he knows that he's empowering them to at least have the possibility. It's worth it for even the possibility that they're not going to fall on the battlefield. That's the way I view our Rebbe. So to walk around like this means you haven't even started to transcend. If you cannot walk on the street where you live, so live in a different place if you can handle that. And if someone walks into your world that you don't appreciate, give them their seat if they're holding a baby. Okay, I know people that's insanity. I didn't want to have to ever speak about that because it's so negative. And the conversations I've had about that are so negative. But there's really some menschlichkeit that underlies that, and the necessity to get up for someone, an old woman holding a baby as her granddaughter, her grandson, whatever it is. You go to a bus that's all men, or you have to go to the back where it's already filled up with the women that are already there, and you don't get up for her? That's insane. That's hyper mega super flash level orthodox. Okay, when you put all the extra superfluouses, the prefixes on the word, that's like insanity. Be genuine. Be a good yid. Love God. Bring God into everything you do. Know that Kel Nekamas Hashem, Kel Hashem Nekamas Sefiyah, God's there. Okay, there's a sparkler burning. He's really there, whether you like it or not. If you don't bring him in, you're like pushing his head away. That's this. God's there before you. You won't see it if it's chalav the Yisrael. If the Jew didn't see the chalav, if it's milk, we're talking about drinking milk here. If it's not kosher milk, you don't even see it. Says Reb Nachum Chernobyler, right? Reb Nachum Chernobyler, great tzaddik. You won't even see it. Don't worry. If you're not supposed to see it, you won't see it. Just be connected with that level of sincerity, and God's not going to put things in your face that you're not supposed to see. And in fact, if it does become before your face, you won't see it. That's why that tzaddik in the story of Mendel Futterfast, when he did brush against the Zaina, or whatever it was, he went back to 210 mikvahs cracking the ice again. 210 dunks in the mikvah. Because for him, it was a joy, it was natural, it was sincere, it wasn't this repressive Yiddishkeit. Come on, be genuine. Everybody should see this everywhere in Williamsburg. Everyone should see this message. Someone should have the guts to tell them, yes, it's good that you want to bring sanctity to the street and to your world and to your shtetl. Yes, that's a good thing. Don't be crazy. Be respectful. Understand not everybody's you. Some people want to walk through the world with their eyes a little bit open. You're supposed to actually walk with your eyes open. You're supposed to look at your feet. You're supposed to be humble. But the Rebbe, look at where the Rebbe's eyes are. Like a king walking down the royal red carpet treatment wherever he goes. The Rebbe did not avert his eyes like that. He did not do that. He didn't see when Bob Dylan was there. He didn't exist. Okay, Bob Dylan, a holy Jew? That's the story I heard. Maybe it's not true. You saw a picture of one white kapata amongst a million black kapatas. That's Bob Dylan. And he goes to the Rebbe. The Rebbe didn't acknowledge that. Oh,